Hello, my name is Helen and I like to do baking, gardening, crafts, home decorating, all sorts of things, and I thought I would bring you along for part of that journey. Today I've been making focaccia bread. It's not something that I'm very proficient at the moment, but I think I've got a recipe here that's easy and simple, so I hope you enjoy it. Hello, thank you for joining me to make focaccia bread. I always thought that bread making was really hard and difficult to do, but a friend of mine from an Italian household showed me this particular recipe and it got me started in bread making. It's very, very easy and it has really good results. So let's get to it and I'll show you how I make my focaccia bread. I will put the recipe in the description below. You'll need 500 grams of strong white flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 sachet of Easy Blend yeast. Now this particular sachet I know has 7 grams in it, but you might want to check on the back of your main packet to make sure that it's got the right amount in for you, or you might have to make some modification. 14 fluid ounces of cold water, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then for the topping I use a sea salt, Italian herbs, and I like to put some fresh rosemary on that I've actually got from my garden. So you have a bowl that you can get your hands in easily. So to this I've added the salt and the yeast, and now we want 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I actually put these in the bowl so that they're separate from each other, although the olive oil seems to be travelling around the bowl at the moment. So after you've done that with the smaller ingredients, I just make a little well in the centre, and then you add about 10 fluid ounces of the water. Don't put it all in because it will be too much. So you can use your hands first off if you want to, but I like to use a wooden spoon just to get the ingredients mixed around. So keep adding the water, and I'm really sparing as I get to the end. It sometimes just depends on how the weather is sometimes for a recipe, but just see how you go with the water. So that's coming together nicely now. Just adding a little bit drop by drop now, because you don't want it to be too wet. This might just be enough now to bring all of that together. So if I hold that up to the camera, you can see how that is coming together now. I might just need a tiny little bit more water So that's looking pretty good now, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get my hands in there, and you need to mix this with your hands, kneading it for about 5 minutes. So I'm getting my hands in the bowl now and just working this round and smoothing it. By doing this, you can actually feel the consistency of the dough actually changing. So turn your bowl as you're working the dough. And continue on for about 5 minutes altogether. So after kneading for about 5 minutes, the dough has all started to come together, and as you can see, it's actually started to change and it gets that elasticity to it. So we now need to put the dough onto an oiled surface. I usually put a bit of olive oil in a little dish, and I also have some flour as well if I need it. So then you don't have to keep grabbing the bottle with your mixture on your hands. It makes it a lot easier. So just putting a little bit of olive oil on the surface and just smooth that around. Take the dough out. And now what you need to do is knead it for another 5 minutes. So what I do is stretch it and put it into the centre and just keep working that through. And it will be picking up the olive oil, and this will be pushing it into the mixture, and it will make it very moist when it comes out of the oven. So just keep working it. And again, when you're doing this, you can actually feel it changing under your fingers. Now, I am absolutely no expert in bread making, but it's worked for me and people like it. So I think it's quite good to try all sorts of different things, and you might like to have a go at this one. So my oil is running out now, so I can just take a little bit more and put it on my surface. Stretching and folding again to work that in. There's something quite satisfying about making bread. It just feels very good to do it. And you can see how lovely that looks with the texture and the olive oil on it as well. So this goes back in the bowl, and we're going to leave it to prove until it's doubled in size. So you can cover the bowl with cling film, plastic wrap or something like that, just to cover the top of it. And once it's doubled in size, we'll come back and do the next part. I had 3 fluid ounces of water left, so I didn't put it all in, but you may need more, you may need less, but just take it easy when you're actually getting to the end of the water so that you don't put too much in. If you do, then just add some more flour and then bring the mixture back. So the dough will go into a large baking tray. This one is 37 centimetres by 27, and this is a pretty good size for the amount of mixture that we actually have. So this is lined with greaseproof paper or baking parchment. So after a couple of hours, the dough has risen. It is probably a little bit more than doubled in height, and what we're going to do now is take it out of the bowl and put it onto an oiled surface again. The dough feels really light now as it's coming out of the bowl. And it feels really good. It's very, very smooth now. So we're going to stretch it out and then pull it over. And we're just going to work the olive oil into the dough. Just moving it around and pushing it into the centre as we did before. Just pushing it down into the centre and just working my way around in a circle. Just making sure that that olive oil gets well into all of the mixture. Now, as you're kneading it and working it through, if it becomes slightly less pliable, then just give it a minute and you'll find that you'll be able to move it again in an easy fashion. It feels really smooth. After you've kneaded it for a little while, then we need to put it into the tray. What you need to do now is to flatten it down and push it into the corners. Now we're going to leave that for 20 minutes. So the dough has been resting again for another 20 minutes. And again, it's nice and smooth on the top. It's risen a little bit more. So if you needed to, you could actually stretch it out a little bit more into the corners. And also we like to put those little dimple marks on the top of a focaccia, which is a nice decoration to put on it. It also pushes the air bubbles down a bit so it doesn't keep rising. So with your thumb, just press into the dough and make those dimples as you go along. It feels lovely and smooth now and looking very good. So on the top of that, I like to put some olive oil. Just sprinkle that on. And then work it in all over the top of the dough. You can use your fingers if you like, but I'm going to be opening some containers, so I don't want to get that on my hands. So that's all spread over. I like to use a bit of sea salt on the top. mixed herbs. Just sprinkle them all over. As I said before, you could change the topping that you want to put on here. You could put some olives, sun-dried tomatoes, anything you like really. And I've got some rosemary that I took from my garden this morning, so it's nice and fresh, and just put that on as well. It smells delicious. So I like things to have quite a strong taste, and so therefore that's why I'm putting quite a lot of these herbs on the top as well as the olive oil. If you think that you can see that the olive oil has soaked in quite a lot, then you can actually put some more on as well. It will actually take it in the dough. Well, I found it to be so anyway for this particular one. I think you'll see that that is looking very good. The dough now needs to go into a preheated oven, 220 Celsius, 200 fan, number 7 for gas, and this will be for a total of 20 minutes. After a period of 15 minutes, I just like to check it. Every oven is different. Sometimes you can get more rise on one side than the other, or it might be getting a little bit more baked on the other. So just try it after 15 minutes and see what you think. My oven is a fan, and I usually put it on the middle shelf, but I do check it after 15 minutes just to see how it's doing, and if necessary I just turn it round if it's getting scorched a little bit, and just see how it works for you. So the top of the focaccia is looking really good, but I want to just check it underneath just to see how it's looking. Yeah, I think it could do with the other 5 minutes. After it comes out of the oven, I like to put it on a cooling rack so that the air can circulate around the bread itself. It looks really good as it is, but if you wanted to, you could add some more olive oil on top. You can serve it hot or you can serve it cold. So the choice is yours. So the bread has cooled down a little bit, and I've just cut a section away. It's looking very good inside. It springs back, so I think that that's a good sign. I hope you've enjoyed watching me make the focaccia bread. There'll be other recipes on YouTube, and hopefully you'll follow along and benefit from some of the recipes as well. So join me next time to see what I'm baking. Bye bye.